Hello, my name is Harjit Singh. I have learned that monitoring and controlling are fundamentally decision making activities. Their purpose is not simply to determine whether a project is on schedule or within budget. Effective monitoring and controlling provide project leaders with reliable information to identify deviations, evaluate alternatives, manage changes, communicate decisions, and protect the value the project is intended to deliver. The PIMPOP guide emphasizes that measurement should provide an accurate understanding of project performance so that appropriate actions can be taken when actual or forecasted results differ from expectations. This perspective has strengthened my understanding that project controls have limited value unless the information they generate leads to informed decisions. A dashboard, variance report, or schedule update may identify a problem, but leadership judgment determines whether to accept the variance, take corrective action, modify the project plan, or escalate the issue. An important component of monitoring and controlling is integrated change control. Projects inevitably experience changes in requirements, schedules, resources, costs, risks, technology, and stakeholder expectations. The challenge is not to prevent every change, but to ensure that proposed changes are evaluated systematically before they are implemented. A sound change control process begins with a documented change request. The project team should determine why the change is necessary and assess its effects on scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, risks, and stakeholder expectations. The appropriate decision authority can then approve, reject, defer, or modify the request. If approved, affected baselines and project documents should be updated and the decision communicated to those responsible for implementation. I can relate this principle to projects in my professional environment. Consider a regulatory project involving an independent engineering study of electric utility infrastructure and wildfire risks. During technical analysis, new evidence could indicate that additional equipment inspections or data analysis are necessary. Simply directing the contractor to perform the additional work would be inappropriate because the change could affect contractual scopes, budget, schedule, staffing, and final deliverables. Instead, the project manager should document the request, evaluate its technical and contractual consequences, determine whether additional resources are justified, obtain appropriate authorization, and establish a revised baseline where necessary. This example illustrates an important principle. Change control is not a bureaucracy for its own sake. It protects informed decision making and accountability. At the same time, excessive control can inhibit responsiveness. The challenge for the project manager is to apply governance appropriate in proportion to the significance and risk of the proposed change. A technically correct decision can still fail when it's poorly communicated because corrective actions frequently require coordinated behavior across multiple organizational boundaries. When a change is approved, stakeholders should understand what changed, why it changed, what consequences are expected, who is responsible, and when the action must occur. However, communication should be tailored to the audience. Executives may require information about strategic consequences, costs, major risks, and decisions where technical team members need detailed information concerning requirements and implementation. Contractors may need contractual direction, while external stakeholders may require information concerning outcomes and accountability. This reinforces my view that communication is part of project control rather than an activity occurring after control decisions have been made. Monitoring and controlling also require project managers to make trade offs. A project rarely allows scope, schedule, cost, quality, resources, and risks to be optimized simultaneously. Accelerating a schedule may require additional resources. Reducing costs may increase schedule or quality risk. Expanding scope may improve stakeholder value while increasing cost and complexity. Therefore, the appropriate question is not simply how do we bring the project back to its original baseline. A better question is which response produces the greatest overall value while remaining consistent with the project objectives and stakeholder expectations. This value oriented perspective is increasingly important because project success extends beyond the traditional constraints of scope, schedule, and cost. Sustainability considerations, for example, can influence project decisions concerning resources, procurement, long term benefits, and stakeholder impacts. Researchers have shown the growing integration of sustainability principles into project management practices, reinforcing the importance of considering longer term consequences when evaluating project alternatives. Learning curves represent another important consideration in monitoring and controlling. Productivity is rarely constant throughout a project. When people encounter unfamiliar technology, processes, or requirements, initial performance may be lower while knowledge is being developed. As experience increases, productivity and decision quality can improve. This becomes particularly important when projects are extended or resources and goods are limited. Replacing an experienced team member, for example, may appear to solve a resources shortage, but can temporarily reduce productivity because the replacement requires training and uh, contextual knowledge. Likewise, schedule compression may be ineffective when specialized resources cannot be substituted easily. Project managers should therefore incorporate learning effects into forecasting, resource planning, and corrective action decisions. Historical productivity area, including productivity data, lessons learned, and updated estimates, can help distinguish temporary learning related variances from more serious structural performance problems. Technology can also strengthen the decision process. For example, artificial intelligence is an emerging means of improving project management efficiency. AI supported analytics can assist with the forecasting, identifying anomalies, analyzing risks, and evaluating performance trends. However, these capabilities should augment rather than replace professional judgment. Project managers remain accountable for interpreting information, considering stakeholder consequences, and making ethically and contextually appropriate decisions. I also learned that monitoring and controlling should be understood as a continuous decision cycle. That is, measure performance, interpret deviations, investigate causes, evaluate alternatives, authorize appropriate changes, communicate decisions, monitor results, and capture lessons learned. Integrated change control provides the governance structure connecting these activities, while communication ensures that decisions translate into coordinated action. Effective project managers must also recognize that returning mechanically to an original baseline is not always the best decision. Changing conditions may require deliberate trade offs, revised assumptions, or alternative approaches. Learning curves and resource limitations further require realistic forecasting rather than expecting constant productivity throughout the project. Ultimately, monitoring and controlling create value when they help leaders make timely, evidence based, transparent, and value conscious decisions. By combining disciplined change control with effective communication, trade off analysis, organizational learning, and appropriate technologies, project managers can move beyond reporting what happened and actively influence what happens next. Thank you.